Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daniel Batal channel. I want to talk to you guys today about audio. Audio is just one of those things that I think a lot of us struggle with because it's a big part of what we do. We think video editing, but the audio part of it is everything, right? We all want our audio to sound good. We want it to sound powerful. We want it to sound listenable when people are paying attention to whatever we're putting it on. For us, a lot of us, it's YouTube. We want to make sure our audio sounds good when we upload it to YouTube. Speaking of which, how's my audio sounding today? Do I sound all right? Doug Houston, good to see you, my friend. Megan, always a pleasure. Megan on the couch. AC in TUC, AC in Took. I gotta figure out how to pronounce your name. And the perfect teen. Yeah, listen, on this channel, we talk about all things DaVinci Resolve. And one of the things I found that I hadn't really mentioned was the EQ section inside of Fairlight and inside of, it's now on the edit page. They got the mixer there and you can access some of the controls. But I started thinking about making a video and I realized it's just going to take me, it was going to be either a long form video or I could do it with you guys here and we could talk, and ask questions and bounce some things around. So let's get right in. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. Let me grab this software up here. So a lot of you might know that they did add this mixer in. This is DaVinci Resolve 20.2 that I've got installed right now. And on the right-hand side behind my face, I believe behind my face, let me get myself out. You'll see down in the lower right-hand corner here is this mixer section. That's the same kind of mixer that we have over in the Fairlight page, but they've added some of the effects options down in that corner. And I think that that's a good thing. I think it actually helps us be able to do things without always jumping into the Fairlight page, but I'm going to be showing you a little bit of both. I'm going to be starting on the Fairlight page. There's a couple distinct differences between the way you can access some of the effects on the edit page as opposed to Fairlight, and especially when it comes to the EQ, I want to make sure that you understand some of those things. So starting on the edit page is about the best place we can start. Let me do this. Let me go full screen. Let me come over to Fairlight here and let me see if I can get this thing moving. So here we are. I've just got a single track of audio, right? This is a piece of audio from a video that I did recently. I don't know if you guys can hear this. Tell me if you can hear the audio track if I play it. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you could hear that, let me know, and that would be helpful. But what we're going to be talking about here is the EQ section and how to EQ that, use the EQ, understand the EQ in a way that makes it digestible and makes sense. Yes, I see yeses. Awesome. So we can hear it. So listen, if you are, let me just shrink, let me just make one change here so I can zoom in if I have to. If you are using DaVinci Resolve and you haven't used the Fairlight page at all, I do recommend spending some time over there. And I know a lot of times what happens is some people get wrapped up in the idea of like, you may have come from a different software. Some of us did. We were talking about the F word earlier, and that has basically a single page. Even other really advanced editing software like Adobe Premiere Pro doesn't have a lot of pages. They have different softwares, like they'll have Adobe Premiere Pro, they'll have After Effects, they'll have Audition. And if you want to use, take your project from Premiere Pro and do more with it, like in the compositing software, you can open up, it links into other software like After Effects. Resolve does it different. It puts it all right in Resolve, right? It gives it right to you in 7 pages, and it can be overwhelming. But the audio page called Fairlight was a fully functional DAW, digital audio workstation, before Blackmagic Design bought it and put it into the software and gave it to us. Like, here you go. So it's literally a fully functional digital audio workstation that you could record, if you're a musician, you could record an album with this. They have giant work surfaces that integrate hardware from Blackmagic Design that are giant mixing consoles that work with Fairlight. So you can do advanced cinema audio for movies and theatrical releases. So it's really pretty crazy what Resolve can do and what Fairlight can do. But if we're in this Fairlight page, over in the right, if you look right here in the track, you see that area right there, right above my head. Is it right here? It says EQ. And it just looks like a little blue line going straight across. And there's one on each track. If you don't see that for any reason, there is a 3-dot ellipsis. And when I say 3-dot ellipsis, I mean that thing above my head. It's in the corner and it's just 3 dots. And if you click on it, it'll open up all the options down here that can potentially, let me hold them with my hands. All the options right here that you can click and make sure you can see in each individual track. So if you're not seeing an EQ, make sure it's enabled. If you don't see something, any of the other effects, compressors, dynamics, it may be because they're just not enabled in your mixer settings. So that's how you would turn it on if you don't see it. Little 3-dot ellipsis up top. So if I were to click on, I'm going to click on this EQ above my head. You can't quite see it, but you'll see the pop-up window here. This is the EQ. This is what the EQ looks like right there. And this can be scary. When you first open it up, you're like, man, look at all the little numbers and knobs and what on earth does this do? And I want to break this down for you because this is actually, it's a fairly advanced EQ, which is what we call a parametric EQ. But most of the functionality, once you get a handle on it, you start going, oh, well, now I get it. That makes a ton of sense. They call it a parametric EQ because it deals with sweeping bands. Some of you may have in your lifetime seen graphic EQs. If you're a guitar player, a lot of times the pedals they would give us have all these individual sliders, or maybe you have been an audiophile from the older days like me and had one in your car that had like all the little individual faders that did single frequencies, and you would kind of dial in a curve. That's a graphic EQ, but a parametric EQ works a little bit different. It uses more overlapping bands and frequencies. And that's basically what you're seeing right here in this window, okay? When you look at this blue line that's going right across here, okay? That one that goes right across the middle. Think of that as just the frequency response. That's just a window that's showing you on the up and down here. Let me just zoom in a tiny bit. Right here, all of this -80, -70, -60, all of this, think of that as the volume or the decibels of how loud the frequencies are being either pushed, added to the music or vocal track, whatever the audio is, or removed from it. And this point right here, even though it says -40, this is the sort of dead zero. That's, you're not adding, when that line is perfectly flat down the middle, you're not adding any EQ and you're not subtracting any EQ. Right now, it's dead flat. And from this side here, starting on that left, moving all the way over to the right, what that is a spectrum of frequencies. And when you think about it, everything down in this area would be the lowest of lows, the boomy stuff. When you hear the cars go by with the subwoofers and it's rattling the windows and rattling your teeth and rattling in the windows in your home, that's all those super low frequencies. They're everything to the hard left. And then when you start getting more towards the right, you're going to get into the mid-range frequencies. That's all this is. That's what this whole bottom line here is doing. It's all in hertz. It goes all the way down to like, I think 20 hertz. And you'll see 125, 250, 500. It's going up to hertz. And then it gets into the Ks, the kilohertz, just means 1,000 hertz. And when you get over to this right section over here, these are your highest of highs. Those are the super highs, like cymbals and S's and way up there, the air, the really bright brights. So when you look at an EQ and you see this line, just think left or right, lows, mids, highs, and they overlap and they're pulling you left to right. If you understand that to begin with, that's just looking at an audio spectrum. You start to understand how EQs work. Now, let me see. I am going to play this and I'm going to pull this track back, and you're going to see something happen here as I play this track through. Watch that graph area where you see that flat blue line, okay? Let me see if I can get it to play. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. Okay, did you see how there was like that moving mountain range that was going on like right, almost like behind the blue line, but in that graph area? That's what's really cool about the Fairlight EQ. Is it actually has an integrated spectrum analyzer. So the blue line is actually listening to my audio, my vocal track, and it's saying, oh, I'm going to analyze what frequencies have been recorded into this track. Well, you know, how many lows, how loud are the lows, how loud are the mids, how loud are the highs, and it'll put it right behind the graph of the spectrum EQ. So you can sit there in the graph area and you can start looking at, it's interactive. If you start like removing some of the lows or removing some of the highs, you'll actually see that reflected in that moving spectrum that's going on up top. So it's a really, really cool feature to understand when you see all this stuff, because all these lines, that mountain that's going behind, that literally is your audio track. That's what you're seeing. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was okay, so if that makes sense, nice and simple, okay, I'm just looking at, I'm sort of analyzing the audio. That's what was captured by this mic. And it's just putting it on that spectrum, right? Now, down below here, you start seeing all these knobs and you start seeing all these like dots. You can see these dots that are in the blue line, right? And you're like, oh man, what does that do? I'm already confused. What one do I turn? Well, let's start here. What I want to do is I'm going to kind of zoom into the bottom here. And I'm going to tell you, the very first thing I want you to understand is that this here, I'm trying to write numbers, work with me. I'm not a good mouse number writer. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those 4 sections are identical. They're set differently right now. But once you learn one, if you learn one, you'll know what 2, 3, and 4 do. They all do the same thing. They just give you multiple bands so that you can address different sections of that spectrum, that frequency spectrum, so that you can work on the lows, the low mids, the mids, the mid highs, the highs. And that's all that these things do. So those 4 in the middle, we're going to start with number 1, okay? And the very first thing you'll see is it's got a number, right? It says band 2, you know, on this one in Fairlight. See how it's red? And this one over here that says band 1 is not red. It's kind of grayed out. That's because if you click on those, it'll activate it. If I were to jump out of this and click on band 1, you see band 1 turned red, and all of a sudden things happened on the left in the lowest section. We'll get to what that is, but that's all that is turning those on and off. I'm turning, and if you see I turn on band 2, there is a corresponding dot right there. So every time I turn this on, you'll see a dot that has like a number that goes with it. Band 3 here has a little dot that says 3. Band 4 has a little dot that says 4. So anytime you're opening up band 1 through 6, it'll put a little dot up there and you go, oh, okay, that connects to that set of controls underneath in the parametric EQ. But the first thing we want to think about is, okay, well, what does this do? That turns this section on, that allows us to start changing some of the frequencies and dialing in the EQ. What you want to look at is this section here. It's got like a funky little sideways Y. Like what does, what's with the sideways Y? Could DaVinci Resolve not afford a stand-up Y? Was that Y out drinking last night? What it is actually there's 4. Let me see if I can zoom in. There's actually 4 of these. And those are basically what we're looking at as they're going to define the functionality of that dot up in the graphic area. And what it means is if you see this little spot, it's like shaped like a Y. It looks like this, right? And it goes like that. That's that first one. And what it means is if you think about the entire, put that inside of this entire graph space, the entire region that we're looking at, the spectrum analyzer area, right? The whole frequency area. What it's telling you is imagine taking that shape and putting it right over the graph area, and it shows you which areas this is going to affect. So all that Y is, it's saying, hey, if you click this option, it's going to work down in the low section. It's going to push everything towards the lows. So everything's so if you start playing with this and have it set like that, everything from that point, right, where that Y begins and backwards, it's going to affect. And let me just show you real quickly so you can see what I mean. If I were to, band 2 is activated, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to left click up in this graph area, right on the 2, left click and hold, and I'm going to lift and see what happens. It not only goes up from there, everything backwards into the lowest of low frequencies come up with it. So if you were to think about this, and I should show you both ways. If I pull it down, it does the mirror opposite, okay? So as you have that setting, effectively what you're doing is it's going to leave all this alone, and it's going to create this Y. If you go down, it'll go that way. And if you pull that frequency up, it's going to do like this. So those shapes, really just think of those shapes as telling you what's going to happen when you start using that setting inside of the spectrum of all the different audio frequencies. Okay. Now there's more than one. There's more than one. These the next one here, you can see this one here. It looks kind of like a eyeball with two lines on the edges. If you had swapped to that one, it literally works that shape inside. It literally switches to that shape. Let me show you. I'll swap to that, right? So here's that second shape, and you go like, oh, wait a minute. Now it's done a different thing. I didn't change the position of the two. I just changed this. And what it did was it went, oh, well, you had pulled it down. Here's that eyeball shape. That. Now, if I pull it up, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to go up this way and then back down. And that's going to give me that eyeball shape. It's just the way that that's going to work, the amount of bands it's going to grab along with it. So right here, when I'm playing with frequency 2, wherever this might be, it's going to grab a little stuff going to the right, a little bit of the higher mid frequencies, and it's going to go down into the lows. So when you start understanding how to set it, then you can go, well, what do you need the lows to do? Makes it super, super easy to start figuring out how to do some of these things. Let me just show the other settings become really obvious when you start seeing it, right? So you can see this one here that looks like a seagull, a seagull. It goes like this, right? This one is the only one that's a little bit different. And this is a very special frequency setting. You watch what happens. Can you see this whole section here? It's got 3 knobs, right? There's a frequency, a gain, and a Q factor, right up and down. If I switch to that seagull looking one, see how those bottom knobs went away? Let me switch back so you can see. Right down here, watch what happens with the gain and the Q factor when I switch to that seagull setting right up here. Watch what happens. Boom, they're gone. And I can't control anything other than the position of that 2. I can lift it up or I can lift it down. What this one is for, this particular setting, it's designed to find very specific frequencies and dial them up or dial them out. A lot of times what will happen is you'll have a very specific frequency, like you're listening to a track and you go, there's something in the voice. There's like a one like ringing sound, like there's a hollow section or there's a frequency that I can hear that's making that audio sound bad. It's not like I need to change the entire EQ of the mic or whatever you're listening to, but there's one frequency that's sounding funky. And if you do that, you can sit here and you can sweep, and all you do is left click and hold and drag and listen for it. You can literally push the thing up and listen and push it louder and say, okay, let me find it. And it's really good for finding problematic frequencies that might be a little harsh, and you just want to dial out like a little single frequency on a very narrow width. You don't want to change the whole EQ. Just find that one ringing or annoying sound and go, oh, let's pull that one. That's when that seagull looking shape is really good. And then the very last shape, as you can see right here, is like the opposite Y, right? We had the first Y was like it fell over to the left, and now this Y is sort of leaning like over to the right, right? So it does exactly what you would think too. When I switch to that one, now what happens is it does a reverse Y here, so that it will do wherever this frequency is, it sort of defines the Y point. Everything before it will stay flat, but now the Y will go this way. If I lift up, it'll affect things this way. And if I pull that 2 frequency down, it'll affect everything going this way. So now it's going to affect everything above and to the right of it, all higher frequencies. And that's why you'll see a lot of these different settings on screen right now are actually using different settings. Even though I told you 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all exactly the same. Each section does the exact same thing. They're just doing it on different places in the frequency spectrum. Here, this is a lower frequency one. This is a lower mid. This is a mid high, and this is a high. So they want this one over here, number 4, to affect everything down to the right. And then the 3 and 4, which are in the middle, you want them to have those sort of open middle curves. So if you start increasing or decreasing, it's not going to touch the lows and the highs on either of those. So you start thinking about those shapes as just how you're going to pull and move frequencies around as you play around on screen. And let me give you an example of this. I'm going to reset everything. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, I'm only going to be dealing with that middle 4. I'm only going to be going this section here. I'm not touching band 1 and I'm not touching band 6 because those work a little different. I'll show you those. But I'm just working with band 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you look, there's these weird little extra buttons here, and you go, what possibly could those mean? And they're kind of really easy once you understand. L is for low. So this section is set for low to handle the lower section. ML is mid-low, the mid frequencies, but more towards the low side. MH is mid-high. So this third one is set more towards band 4 is pushing towards the mid-highs. And then all the way over here is H is the highest. It's way up. I overshot it. It's way up there and it's controlling the higher frequencies. And you can toggle each of these. If you watch, band 2 is right here. Let me see if I can show you this way. I'm going to turn off band 3 and 4 by clicking on them. There's band 2. You can see it, right? It's right. Let me see if you can see this here. Get in. Okay, it's right here. All I'm going to do is change the assignment. It says low right now. I'm going to change it to high. Watch what happens. Watch the motion. Boom, throws it off to the right. Now it's into the high section. So all that L, ML, MH, H, it's just saying, where do you want my section, this band 2, to work? Do you want me to work up in the highs? Do you want me to work in the lows and the mids? And you're just telling it where in the frequency spectrum that you want it to do its thing and start changing the EQ for the audio you're working on. All right, I know I'm saying a lot already. This is pretty tricky stuff if you've never played with it before, but are there any questions just on the basic stuff that I've done here? If there are any, just shout it out, man. Just shout them right out. Hey, Daniel, I love you. Please make more videos, please, please. Hey, more to come. We'll see. You know, our DaVinci Resolve contract runs out in this coming month, October. So hopefully they sign back up with us, you know, because we'd like to keep doing this. Let's see. I think it all kind of makes sense. It's pretty straightforward stuff. We're just talking about frequency, lows, mids, highs, and we've got these little controls, all right? So let's dive a little bit deeper, because if you understand how one of these little sections work, you can understand all of them. So again, this here, that's just going to turn that band on or off, the controls up in the graph area. This section here is just going to control how it acts in the graph area. Does it affect everything down in the lows and the mids like a circle, all the stuff after it to the right? So it's using that marker and deciding what kind of shape in the graph it's going to create when we turn it on or off. This frequency thing here, this knob, it says frequency, you can pull that left and right. You can turn that knob and it's exactly the same. Watch, pay attention to number 2. Right here. And I want you to watch what happens when I turn this knob right here. I'm going to left click, hold it and grab it, pull it to the left. Can you see number 2 moving to the left and the right? It's moving to the left and now it's moving to the right. I can do that from that knob, or I can do it from literally grabbing up, left clicking and holding, putting my mouse on it and moving it. If I use the frequency knob, it won't move it up or down. It's just left or right. You could even dial in a frequency. If I said I wanted this to be right on 120 hertz, I could dial in 120 by literally typing into the frequency area, and it'll put it right at, on screen, it's going to be dealing with 120 hertz. So this is just defining like, hey, this is like a fancy car stereo. You've all been in a car and you've all been listening to the radio, or you own a car and you go, hey, the audio doesn't sound good. Let me turn the bass up. I need more bass in this music. Or it's kind of muted. Maybe it sounds a little muffled. You turn up the high, turn up the treble. So that's all we're doing here, is we're just going, oh, that's all this thing is. This whole thing is basically bass, my mids, and my treble. And I've got all these neat little dots that I can say, ooh, I want to control the frequencies like somewhere between the bass and the middle, and that's the mid-low. Or I want to control the frequencies in between the mids and the highs. That's your mid-highs. So that's all we're doing. Look I spelled Beaumont. I think that's important. Make a note. So that's all this is. We've got this figured out. There's only a few more things. So now you know that's a toggle. That's how it's going to act up in the graph area. This is just the frequency left and right, where it's going to be, where the center point is in the frequency spectrum graph up top. This whole section just kind of tells it, hey, do you want me to go near the lows, the mid-lows, the mid-highs, the highs? And then we have 2 more knobs, gain and Q factor. Okay, here's where it gets fun, gain and Q factor. So gain literally is, once again, I'm going to stay in that same number 1 section, or band 2. The gain here is just think of it as the decibel volume of that particular band on the frequency spectrum. So if I were to grab this knob right here and turn it left or right, all it's going to do is take that, and it's either going to make it louder and push it up more bass, or it's going to pull it down depending on which way I turn it, left or right, and make it go down. And you can see it in real time. So gain, think of that as just like sort of like level, not quite volume, but level, amount. I'll left click, hold, pull it left. You'll see 2 comes down, right? And if I hold, left click, hold, and move it to the right, number 2 goes right. And as always, you can just grab that 2 in your graph area and pull it. And you'll see the gain knob underneath actually is moving back and forth with it, okay? That's really the main parts. The only thing you don't know now is the Q factor, which is like, okay, everything else made sense, like frequency, low, mid-high, high, gain. All those were nice and easy, right? Memorable, easy to comprehend. What the heck is a Q factor? Q factor is actually really easy to understand too. What I'm going to do in this one frequency range is I'm going to switch band 2 from that left, that Y that's only going to control all the lows. I'm going to switch it to more of this eyeball shape where it's going to have a sort of a rainbow curve, either up or down, depending on where I move it. So I'm going to switch it to that, and you'll be able to see this a little easier. So I have now switched it, okay? And all I'm going to do is increase the gain. All right. So now you can see, whoop, make sure you can see it. Now you can see I just switched the way that frequency, this band, how much of the spectrum it's affecting and in what way. The Q factor, all that is okay, when we're using this shape here, let's say, how wide do I go? Like how wide is the mountain that it's making? Do we want a narrow mountain so that it's only affecting a narrow band of different frequencies? Or do we want to stretch it out with the Q and go much wider? And you'll see it, whoops, you'll see it change. If I take the Q and I left click and hold, I'm holding on the Q knob, and I drag it to the right, it narrows way down. You see now the frequencies are super thin. It's not affecting more of the lows and more of the mids. It's getting very narrow, almost like that seagull shape we use to isolate specific frequencies. And if I take that Q factor and go to the left and broaden it out, now it gets really huge. Let me go. I can go even farther than that. I can get it all the way down to there. And if you look, now I've got this real wide Q factor. Where this becomes important is if you are working on some content and you're like, well, I want to bring up the lows, but I don't want to bring up all the lows. It's just like a little bit of the warmth in the vocal. You can sort of find the frequency, move left and right with that band and go right about there. You can decide how wide, like how much of the more of the super lows or more of the mids and the highs is it going to bring up with it, or you can get more narrow and say, just right in here, I just want to have a very small bandwidth and go, just bring that up. And it's just going to bring that frequency and just the ones just to the left and right of it. And you can control how many it's going to bring with it. So that is literally what we're looking at here. When we look at, let me show you this, right? When we look at this section, 1, 2, 3, 4, these right here, all of these sections, they are identical. They're just more than one so that you can work on several areas of the frequency spectrum at the same time. So they're just set to some. This one over here is obviously operating more of the lows. This is doing the mid lows. This is doing the mid highs, and this is doing the highs. And you know all the same thing. That turns them off. That changes the shape. Here's the frequency, exactly where it's going to be centered. This is the assignment. This is how much gain or how much removal of that frequency you're going to put in. And the Q factor is just how wide it affects the other frequencies around it. Once you know that, you know this one, and you know this one, and you know this one. So it's just that one section, 3 knobs, a couple of switches. Once you understand that, now you can go, oh, wait, I get this. It looks like a million knobs, but it's not really a million knobs. What it really is one set of knobs, and they repeat. And this is a lot like, have you guys ever seen like famous musicians in a recording studio, and they're at these giant mixing consoles, these giant desks that have all these knobs and faders, and you're like, man, I used to think as a kid, how do they know what to turn? There's so many knobs, there's so many switches. How would you even know how to use that? And then after years of actually working in a recording studio, you realize they're all repeated. There's like track 1 is only that wide and that's all. And then they're all identical, track 1, track 2, track 3, and there'll be 64 channels on a board, and it's super wide, but they're all just like this EQ. They're all just repeating. They're all just repeating themselves. It's just once you know how to work one, you know how to work the rest. They're just sitting in different places in the spectrum. They're just sitting in different areas so you can adjust mid lows, mid highs using these bands, okay? That's kind of the main crux of how to work in EQ. And we're going to get into some of the sort of more heady sections here in a second. Does this kind of make sense? It's just sort of like a fancy radio EQ control. Instead of like bass and treble, it's got like bass with super contoured ability to how much of the bass, what part of the bass, wide bass, lots of the bass, how much of the mids, how much of the high. We're just sitting here and having a lot of like really small, intricate controls that allow us to really dial in frequencies, not just have all the high end turn up or all the high end turn down. Does this kind of make sense? Because for me, sometimes I'm so used to working in audio that I don't want to go too fast for you guys. There was a question: why would you want to change the band 2 to H if it has a preset for L? Let me say this, I'm gonna find it. You wouldn't necessarily need to do that in a lot of situations, but where it might make sense is if your bottom end, the bass was fine, and you were trying to subtract some certain frequencies from the higher section and also boost some other ones, you can put two kind of side by side. Let me give you an example. Now you might have, let me reset this. Let's say that you had your low, let me see, I'm going to do it this way. Let me say you took your mid lows and you went, oh, that makes my audio sound good. I'm just going to put a little bit up in the mid low. Can you see what I did there? Wasn't much. I just took this band, which is actually number 3, and I just pushed it up a little bit. And it's got that sort of mountain setting, that eyeball shape that allows it to have a nice spread. You go, okay, it just that brought a little bit. Sometimes I'll push up right in that area for my voice when you want your mic to sound a little more like a podcaster mic. Anywhere in that 125 to 250 range is what makes microphones sound like really warm, and they sound like, you know, someone's right on your lap. It gets that real Howard Stern deep, you know, it helps bring out that bottom. But let's say I did that and I didn't need the number 2. I went, oh, the number 2 I don't even need to use. But then I started going, oh, but I'm going to do this. I want to, there's a bad frequency here. I need to pull that frequency out, right? So all I did there quickly was I said, here's band 4. I set it for that seagull band, right? That is good for pulling out nasty frequencies. And I just clicked on 4 and moved it left and right. Went, okay, let me see. Oh, it's that one right there. I can hear it really get much better when I pull that frequency out. And then let's say on band 5, which is my last high band, right? Over here, this one right here. Let's say that I wanted to, let's say it was a little dull up top and I wanted to brighten up some of the mic sound. Maybe the mic was really kind of muted sounding. And I went, wait a second, let me take that and I'm going to pull it up and just brighten up some of those highs. You see what I just did? All I did was I just grabbed that 5 and I pulled it upward, and it brought all of those higher frequencies afterwards up with it. Okay. Great question yet. I have now used up the 3 dots, and all I have left, right? I've used my 3 frequency bands. All I have left is 2. And what if I found out, oh my gosh, there's another frequency right here that's super annoying, but my only other band is way over here. Wait a second. It's set for low. Why don't I set it for high, and it'll allow me to move over there? I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here and switch this over to high. And that's what it'll do. It'll switch it to high, right? And once it goes to high and I can get it up there, now I can say, oh, okay, let me switch this to, it's now set for high. Actually, I have it set for medium high. I got to put the high. I'm going to set it to that seagull setting. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to, whoops, did I not set it? Seagull setting. And I'm going to use that to pull out another bad frequency that I can hear somewhere up in the super highs. So that's the kind of situation where you might move it. Like, this all sounded good, but I needed more bands working up there. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's not like, oh, well, you should have moved the other 3 to the right, whatever. This is just the ability that if you find you need more control in a certain region and you've got one of the, like, band 2 is already set in the low area, but you don't really need it. You really need it up in the highs for the extra control. Switch it, move it up there, and then you can sort of remove things, add things, and help dial in what you need for the sound of whatever you're, EQing in that moment. So pretty straightforward stuff. It's just we're listening to the EQ curve and how these things affect it. And I will play some audio so you can kind of hear this in motion, but I want you to understand those 4 basic areas. Once you know what those 4 things do and why they're acting the way they act, which is these these ones here, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is actually band 2, 3, 4, 5, you're all set. You know one. If you know one of those, you know all of them. And it's just a matter of where they're working up here. And I want to see, let me see if I can show you what I mean. I'm going to reset this whole thing. And I am going to turn off every single band except for, let's turn on band 4. That's the only one we're going to leave on. And I am going to pull this way down so you can kind of hear it. And I'm going to do this in real time. Now, all I did was I grabbed that 4 and I pulled it down. And you can see it's between 1K and 2K, which is like the mid-highs. That's sort of like guitar frequencies for musicians out there, up to about 3K. Sometimes guitars get annoying around 3K and you kind of have to dip a little out. But also vocals, sometimes that 1 or 2K can be a little too crisp. So you're either sometimes making things a little brighter or a little less bright. But you'll watch what happens. I have this pulled down. I'm going to pull it down and left and right, and I'm going to play the audio and I'm going to sweep that in real time. And you should be able to physically hear how that changes the audio. All right. So why don't we do this? I'm going to pull that down and I'm going to start by moving it off to the right, and I'm going to move it from the right to the left. And what you will hear is when it's down on the right, it's going to be pulling a lot of the highs out. So it's going to sound muted. It's going to sound like, like I've got a towel over my mouth. And then when I pull it back to the left, you're going to hear some of the lows. You'll hear the mids disappear and then some of the lows disappear. Let's do this in real time. So number 4, I'm bringing it way over here, and let's play this, and you'll hear this in real time. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look
Muted.
like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's
Now the
moving
bass
and
is
the
gone.
background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how.
Now the mids are
If you wanted
gone.
to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still,
And I can do the opposite.
The camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone
Mids
who's moving
pushed
and the
really
background
loud.
was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how.
Highs.
If you wanted to take
Pushed
a video
really
of someone
way up.
who's moving and the background was staying still and make
Let's
it
go
look
down
like
to the
the
lows.
camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking
And flatten back out. Do you hear that sweep, right? All I'm doing is I'm taking one band and I'm moving across to show you in real time what that spectrum sounds like. The lows, the mids, the highs, and everything in between. If you take one band and do that kind of rainbow curve and move it, you'll immediately go like, oh, I get it. I'm literally just either adding or subtracting to try to dial in the tone of whatever I'm trying to EQ and make sound better. With me, it's usually my voice, my microphone. I'm just trying to polish it up a bit. So those are the basic 4. Now, what do we got? I can't read that. 1RC biking. Biking? I hope that's biking. What about band 1 and 6? Great question. How many people in the chat have ever heard the word high pass filter or low pass filter? If you have, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, just say no, haven't heard of it. There's a thing that we use a lot, and they're really important, called high pass filters and low pass filters. And they really can help solve a variety of issues. And it's probably the 2 that I use more are those end band 1 and band 6. I tend to use more than probably any other part of the EQ for very specific reasons. Not Useless says no, and I haven't heard of that before. Create and Relate says nope. AC and Tuck, I hope I'm saying your name right, pal, says nope. Mystic says nope. Right, real, but in the audio world, they're very common. And so South Carolina Transplant says yes. And Splimpton says not yet, thumbs up. All right, so we got half and half. Okay. As I showed you before when we were dealing with this, right, you could tell there was these very specific shapes that I think we understand, right? The first one's going to make sure that on one of the dots, one of the bands, that's everything over there it's going to control. We understand the rainbow up and down, right? We understand the seagull for pulling out frequencies. And then we understand the opposite one that only lets everything after the dot up in the spectrum graph get affected, right? Low, mids, isolate, and high. Well, if you look, band 1 and band 6, which is kind of out of center here, it's out of screen, they both have this other shape that the other band 2, 3, and 4 don't have. It's a very interesting and important shape. Let me show you. This one here that's added on that they don't have. And it's this sort of a rounding off. There is the 2 terms I talked about, high pass filter and low pass filter, confuse more people that I talk to all the time. And it's because they almost are named backwards. A high pass filter actually affects the lows. But it allows you to filter out the lows and only let the high frequencies pass. A low pass filter affects the highs, but they call it a low pass filter because it filters out all of the higher frequencies and allows the lower frequencies to pass through. Low pass, high pass, right? So they actually work on the opposite scale. Let me show you what happens when I just turn on band 1, okay? If I activate it, so I just hit that band 1 button, that's what turns it on or turns it off. That's what turns every one of these off, the band options. Can you see the shape it made? All of a sudden, it's like right where the 1 is, it's like nosedive. All the frequencies to the left of it, it's like, nope, where it's just like this shape. It's doing exactly that. And you have some controls for how hard that curve is, okay? That curve there is actually defined by 6, it got right here, can you see them? 6, 12, 18, 24. I'm not gonna change anything. I'm just gonna click through those and watch this shape. When you're looking at this, watch the shape, the angle of this downturn right here, okay? I'm on 24, which is the hardest, steepest curve. I'll go to 18, you see it move out a little. I'll go to 12, it moved out even more, and I'm gonna go to 6. Even farther, much softer curve. So 6 is a very soft curve, 24 is a really harsh curve, and this is what we're gonna call a high pass filter that pulls out the super lows and allows high frequencies to pass. Now, you might be asking, what do I need that for? This is super important for your vocal tracks. The reason being is your real voice in real human life, if you're sitting and talking to somebody, your voice does not occupy frequencies that are down in these super low ranges. This 62 hertz, 31 hertz, your voice doesn't make those sounds. If they are captured by your mic, it's your mic bringing in those tonal qualities, all right? Those super low kind of frequencies are the ones that you hear like, thunder strikes and, thumping, music with the super low bass and the kick drum, boom, boom. That's way down there. Your voice doesn't make those sounds naturally unless you're, like a beatboxer with a microphone pressed against your face. So almost always I am turning on a high pass filter so that I take the lows, those super lows out. And if you watch, let me turn all of these off. Look how, remember how when I play this through, you're going to see the spectrum behind the line and see what my microphone captured. Watch how many frequencies, you're going to see this like mountain shape going on, right? Watch how many frequencies are way down here that my mic happened to capture because of its tonal qualities that really don't exist in my voice in real life, okay? Just watch as we play this through. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like Can you see that? Look at all these.
That person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video,
that's hugely problematic. That's stuff that the mic is picking up, and you go, man, those are the things like if I'm too close to my mic, you're going to hear the puh, like the boom, and like, oh, that's not my real voice. That was just me being really close to the mic and getting really good tone. I was actually leaning into the mic to get some good, deep podcaster sounds. But all that's doing is it's capturing things that really don't exist. So, I have to take a second and say, Cha-Ching King, appreciate your down-to-earth tutorials. You've helped my channel. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate that. That kind of stuff helps more than you know. All this gear and stuff around me and all these videos we make, that goes right to that stuff. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. But like I was saying, that high-pass filter, which is down on the low end, when I have that on, it's going to filter out all of these frequencies that are boomy in my voice. And it doesn't really, it doesn't hurt, doesn't make my voice not full. It just takes the bad sounding booms, the stuff that's too aggressive. And if you watch, I'll turn it on and off while my audio is playing in a loop, and you'll be able to hear the difference, but it's not like it destroys my voice. It just pulls away those frequencies that really shouldn't be there anyway. Take a listen.
Someone who's moving and the background was staying still.
That's off.
Make it look like the camera was tracking that person. Let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person.
But can you see the minute I turn that on, this was the original line, the gray line there of what was in my recording. And after I EQ'd it and said, whoa, 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 all this stuff, But that shouldn't be that. We don't need that for this track. That's going to sound potentially boomy. If someone has a really bassy system, they're going to hear the puffs. And if you've got speakers that have a lot of bass, you're going to hear all that when I talk. And it's going to be like, oh my, what is it? Am I listening to the voice of God? It'll be like thunderous. And you don't want that. You want a good sounding. You want a smooth sounding vocal. So turning that on and rolling it off. Now up and about here, you can see all that stuff starts going away. And I lost all of those frequencies that I didn't need by adding a high pass filter. Great example of when this is important. Ever have like be filming it and you get, it's like a windy day, and no matter how hard you try, your microphone picks up some wind and you hear like the, and you can hear the wind hitting your microphone. High pass filter is really good for taking a lot of that wind. It won't take all the noise out, but it'll take a lot of that rumble out. That's the wind hitting your microphone. It's like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. I can't even listen to my vocal. It can really dial down all of that wind noise so that it's just slight instead of taking over your whole audio track. Batal, DaVinci Resolve, voice of God. I wish I was the voice of God. So that's real simple. Okay, so the only way that band 1 track is significantly different than the other 2, 3, 4, and 5 is it can act as a high pass filter. Okay. But notice as well, I can also decide to make it one of these other ones. I can go, what if I want to turn it? What if I don't need a high pass filter? What if I need another band of frequencies because I need more work to do in the middle, right? Remember how we talked, we could move band 2 from a low frequency approach to bring it up into the highs. We can do this here just by changing it out of the high pass filter setting. And if I click on that top one, that sort of backwards Y, oh gosh, look what happened. Now the gain and the Q factor are here. And now it's going to act exactly like these ones. So the only difference is I can't turn band 2 into a higher low pass filter, but I can turn band 1, which has a low pass filter setting, into any of these other tracks, with the exception of band 6. Now, if you look at band 6, the one on the farther end over there, that is your low pass filter. And it does the exact opposite of what we just did with the high pass filter of band 1. It basically, sometimes you'll get a recording and it'll be like super glitchy, right? Like you'll get something that's, is like really high end. Like, you ever like watch a newscast and there's like, it happens a lot with female voices where like all of their S's are very sibilant because women have a higher register of tonality. And it's like, it'll like rip through your head. Like, oh my gosh, the mic is picking up the S's in this person's voice. And it's like ripping my head off. You can turn on a low pass filter. It'll just do the opposite. And let me show you. If I turn on band 6, the frequency is set all the way to the right. I got to pull it back just a little bit. Boom. Let me do that. And if you look, it's done the exact opposite. It's just rolling off everything from that 6th node. You see the marker right there, that frequency marker. It's rolling everything off and it works just the same. 6 is going to be a soft roll off. It's set for 12. It's kind of a medium soft. 18 is going to be a harder roll off, and 24 is going to be a really harder roll off. Let me see. I'll switch these in real time and you'll be able to see. So 6, soft. See that curve is soft? Let's watch it and you'll actually be able to, I'll be able to change it. See that, right? See how soft that is? As I bring this down, it's going to keep crushing this and bring it even to a harder roll off. Here's 12, here's 18, here's 24. Now look at that. Now look at how much it pulls off. So as you roll 6 back and forth, it's just going to pull back the highest of highs. And you can set the curve the way you think you need it. Maybe you don't need it to fall off a cliff. You just need to slightly roll off the high frequencies. So you set it maybe at 12 or so and pull the 6 back. And I'll do this in real time. I will pull band 6 to the left and you'll hear how it just starts pulling the highs, the really top high end, out. And if I push it real hard, it'll take a lot of the highs out. So we'll start way over here. Let me just play and I'm going to grab it and pull it from right to left. Let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. Okay, so that's way over the top. But did you see what happened? It just started slowly rolling off the highs. And when I pulled it way to the left, it pulled out way too many. But it's perfect for that little sibilance when you can hear every little click and pop of your lips sometimes, you know, like you hear someone talking into a mic and it's like, oh, I swear I can hear them like all the little crackles and stuff. It's really good for just rolling that off and taking those highs and the crispy. It doesn't have to destroy the sibilance, but it just softly rolls off some of the stuff that's a little too aggressive. Keto Simple, my man. Hey, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, my man. Thank you, Daniel. I have no idea about any of this stuff. Yeah, this is great stuff, my dude. This one EQ, if you understand this and you kind of start playing with it, you go, you know what? I get how this functionality works, and you start like really playing around with it. It'll change the way you think about all these other tools that are out there. Multi-band compression. There's a lot of really high-end AI-driven tools that do a lot of automated mastering of your tracks. If you understand this, then you'll, there is more often than not that I'll have 1, 2, maybe even 3 EQs on a single track because I'm trying to layer certain things. Like I'm trying to I'll get a really good EQ, I'll add a few effects, but then I'll go like, wow, but I'll put a little effect on something, but the effect is too abrasive. So I'll add an EQ to the effect to dial back the abrasiveness of just the effect. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And all you need to know are these 6 bands. If you understand how these 6 bands work, right? First one's pretty much your high pass filter, rolls off the lows. The next 4 are just all identical and control how you're going to move all of the stuff on the frequency spectrum in different variety of ways. And then the one up at the top is the one that can be a low pass filter and roll off the highs. Again, track number 6 still has the option. Let me move my fat head here. That still has the option. I could change it because you can click and turn it into one of these other tracks too, right? I could choose one of these other options here. And I could say, all right, well, let me turn it into a regular mid-range track. And now the minute I do that, you can see the gain, the Q factors there. The only thing it doesn't have is the L, M, H, MH, and H. And the reason being is the track 6 and track 1 have one other unique ability, okay? If you tell, let's say band 5, I'm gonna just turn these other off. I have band 5, that's this one right here, and I have it set for the H, the high, which is limiting its range. If I grab onto number 5 on the graph, and I go, it'll go all the way to the right, but when I pull left, it'll end up let me get to, oh, it's switching on that one. It'll stop at a certain point. It doesn't let me get quite as far. This will let me go as far as I want. If I'm on the low with like track 1, let me go band 2. It'll stop me at a certain point. It won't let me go higher before it switches into another region. So you just have to realize that these two, this one here, can go completely as low as you need it to go all the way up to the right. And then the band 6 can do the opposite. It has full sweep. You don't have to change it. It can do it automatically. Nice and easy, nice and simple. And that's really the whole bottom section. You now understand all of the different bands down here. You understand all the frequency that's going on up there. And if you hear them in action, one thing I should point out, there's this little, can you guys see that little recycle arrow? It's like a plus with a backwards arrow. If you hit that, it resets everything that's going on here. So if I happen to have things go like crazy and I go like, oh, I've got like the EQ set all over the place. It's, twisted and tweaked. And what did I do? If I just want to quickly reset it, if I just go up to here and I click right there, what it'll do is it'll set everything back to flat. All right, so nice and easy. That's 90% of what the EQ does. And now it's just a matter of learning when you should be pulling certain frequencies, when you shouldn't be pulling certain frequencies. As an example, what I tend to do in general when I'm EQing my vocal, I tend to go, well, I don't want those. You've seen the spectrum on this mic. It captures a lot of low boomy stuff. So I'll turn on band 1. I'll go, let me get that band 1 on. Let me make sure that it's a high pass filter, and let me roll off all this stuff in here. I don't want that. And I also have a tendency, I can get a little spitty or high presency. This mic has a pretty good top end response. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll also turn on band 6 right over here, and I'll just roll a little bit of the top off, because your voice, even in real life, does not occupy, way up in the 16 kilohertz range. It's just your voice tends to occupy more of the mid range, almost like a rainbow in there. So if your mic is grabbing a lot more of the very lows and very highs, a lot of times I'll just I'll roll those off because they're not really natural in the kind of stuff that I do, which is talking to you guys every day. Question, what is equalizer type use cases? I'll tell you in 1 second. I'll get right to you, okay, Cobbler? Because we're going to get to that in a minute, right? The other question, late Apex Garage, what is sibilance? Sibilance is all of those high-end things. When you hear someone talk about like low-end vocal, when it starts like booming the microphone, like the bang, people say take, and you'll hear like the mic kind of pop. Those are called plosives. Plosives, it's like explosives without the X. Plosives, and it's usually because someone was too close to the mic and didn't have, usually, like this one usually has a screen, a pop filter in front of it, so it disperses the air. Right now, I've only got basically a windscreen on it because I tend to talk over it. So I don't usually get a lot of plosives in here. But low end is plosives, and sibilance is the opposite. It's the real high. It almost sounds like sibilance. Like when you're talking into a mic and it's too much top end. It's like, say what you, and all the, like a cymbal crash, it'll rip your ears off. You go, whoa, that's sibilance. Like the S's and the T's and they're punctuated with too much high frequencies. So sibilance is basically a preponderance of like the high frequencies banging you in the face. And you're trying to make sure you have the right amount of sibilance so that your vocal sounds crisp, but not so much that it's starting to rip people's head off, or if they have headphones on, the sibilance isn't like ripping their eardrums and stabbing them in the side of the head. Which mic am I using? Good question. I am using an Aston Spirit mic. I have a pair of these. These are really good. I use a bunch of different mics. I have a Shure SM7B that I like a lot that's in my other section of the studio. I've got some Audio-Technica mics that I like Megan uses one for her audio. It really is find a mic that works for your voice. One thing that I have found is people think like, what's the great mic? And nowadays microphones are so affordable because about 15, 18 years ago, they figured out how to start making the capsules in them very cost effectively. And they started making better capsules and putting them even in cheaper mics. So you can get an affordable mic nowadays. Like this mic is, I think it would be considered a little pricier. For some of you, I think it's in the $300 to $350 range, which is it's about the same as a SM7B. They're like $379, $399. They're all between $300 and $400. But you can get $100 Audio-Technica, AT2020 that sounds great. I love the sound of those mics. I've been using those for 20 years since they first came out. And they can sound really, really good. You don't have to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $1,200. There's mics that I have that are stupidly expensive. You don't need to buy a Neumann. You can buy just a decent vocal mic. And don't be afraid to go places. Like if you have a local music store, find a mic that works. A lot of times they'll have setups where you can put headphones on and you can actually click and try the mics. This one I actually tried. I think it was like a Guitar Center or something. And I'm like, awesome. I have never heard of this mic. I did a little research. It sounded so good. I figured out who it was, bought 2 of them. I love them. So find a mic that works for your voice, all right, that really works well. I recommend getting a decent XLR mic. Some of you use USB mics that have a USB end that plug right into your computer. The problem with those mics that I don't love is that they use your computer's mic preamp to get the tone. And people forget, much like a guitar player, there's your electric guitar and then there's the amp you plug into. And amps are not all created equal, right? There's like really great vintage Fender Tweeds, and there's really great vintage, Marshall Plexis that they have just guitar amps that have a very specific sound. They have tonality and color to them. Well, there's also different mic preamps that do that allow you to plug an XLR, which is like a 3-prong plug, into your computer, but you have to put a device between the microphone and the computer to be able to plug it in. And there's some great ones out there. I like Focusrite, the Scarlett series. I have a couple of Scarletts. They sound great. Really, really warm and transparent. They make mics sound wonderful. My mic right now is going through a Rodecaster Video because that's what I'm live streaming with, and it's pretty good too. But try to get a decent mic. Try to get a decent mic pre. And start learning mic technique, all right? Try to learn like how to talk into your mic, the right distance for your mic, where it should be placed. Should you, like this one, I have a tendency to leave just below me, leaning up, and I'm talking over it, and I don't tend to get plosives. So learning the, don't make me put you in a timeout, my friend. I will. But what happens is if you learn how to capture your audio appropriately, if you make sure that you learn how to talk into a microphone in a way that you're not creating problems that you have to fix in the mix, that'll take you a really, really long way. So learning to find a good mic, it's a great thing to save up for. A good mic pre, you can get a decent mic and a decent mic pre probably for the pair with the cables, $300, all said and done, cables, microphone, mic pre, and you could probably get a decent like AT2020, Focusrite, Solo. I think they're about $100 right in there. Cables, probably less than that, probably 230, something like $230, and you can have a really great sounding. You probably want to have a stand and arms and things, but you get a great sounding studio mic or mic that you can set up that you always know, like, this is going to sound great when I record. So I know, Doug, right? You turn your head and it's like they go crazy. Don't worry, I'm in there. I got you covered, buddy. It's late over there. So these are the simple things we talked about. So listen, there's a couple more things that I want you to understand about the equalizer. Okay. Now, there are a couple of features up above that you guys were asking about. And let me go right up here. There was this thing here that says equalizer type. And if you expand it, let me see, it has 4 options: earth, air, fire, and ice and fire. It sounds like a band, right? Earth, wind, air, fire, ice. It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire, but they hired another member. What that does is it basically, either it decides how aggressively things like the Q factor and the gain from all of those other channels that we see underneath here are going to be applied in the frequency spectrum. The easiest way for me to show you this is I'm going to go right up here. I'm going to show you this first. This section here is where there are some presets, and you can create your own presets. So if you get like an EQ setting for your microphone and you love it, you can save it. So it's always there, which is awesome. Right. So let me just show you this. See right here, I've got Daniel's vocal right here, but I've got a bunch of stuff that are generic ones. I'm just going to pick one. I think there's one here for it. Not that these are great. They just come, presets and give somewhere to start from. Here is a male lav finisher that's supposed to be an EQ setting that they think if you have a lavalier mic, like a lapel mic, they're saying this would be, kind of a good curve that might help. It rolls off the lows. Those little mics don't have a lot of low end, so it brings up this area. Remember I told you that 125 to 250 area is the perfect spot to sort of warm up a mic and get it nice and full. So on a little tiny lavalier mic that's on your lapel, they're pushing up these ends. A lot of times those little lapel mics also don't have a lot of top end. They're very mid-rangey. So this setting is pushing up the highs as well. But watch what happens. See if you can just pay attention to the curve, okay? Just look at the curve itself. When I change through the earth, wind, and fire, it's not going to change the curve. It's going to change how aggressively it pushes it into the spectrum. Here's earth. Let me go to fire. Watch the curve. Did you see the change? Just it lifted up a little bit. It's like it amplified the Q. It amplified the gain. All those little things, these little markers from each band that were being applied to this EQ, it's almost like it dialed up how impactful they were. Almost like it said, hey, all the things it's doing, turn them up to 11. And that's all it is. And if you went through them, you'd go earth, air, ice, fire. So it's almost like, levels, and they each move a little bit different. If you read the descriptions in the handbook, it says, well, earth is designed to roll off some of the lows to give you you could see what happened. The great thing about seeing the audio spectrum and seeing the curve is you can go, I can see exactly what it did. When I had it on earth, it looks like right here, these lows were about here. And when I kicked it up to fire, it actually raised those up a bit. So when I go, yeah, it actually kind of shot those up. Now it's above the 3 right up here. So you can actually see them applying. And it's more like, that's what I like to think of it as. Think of them as like the first setting, the lowest earth, is sort of the most demure. And then it gets more aggressive as you go up towards fire. So those are those things. Over here on the right, I think you guys know is gain. Sometimes when you're EQing or you have signal and you start doing things and pulling out some of the frequencies, the audio track that you've recorded can get quieter, and that can be a problem, right? Like you do all this EQing and you go, yeah, it sounds better, but with the EQing I did, the track is now quieter than it was before I applied the EQ. Well, you use that gain toggle right over here, right? And you can just go up and down, and you can increase or decrease the volume so that you can balance it back out after you've applied your EQ. If most of the time I'm only applying a subtle EQ, and I rarely change that gain. If my track is too quiet to begin with, I'll do it back in the edit page and raise that volume up inside of the edit page in the inspector, and then I'll apply the stuff later. But this is really simple ways to increase the volume. In the upper right, can you see this? Let me see if I can get up to it effectively. There's yet another 3-dot ellipsis. I swear there are more 3-dot ellipsis. When you ever see those little 3 dots either stacked up horizontally or vertically, they call that a 3-dot ellipsis. And if you click on that, what it will do is it will allow you to, whoop, I'm sorry, I blew it. There we go. Copy or paste. So what this functionality does, if I set this whole EQ, right, and I got this on this track, and I go, oh, but I have another track that I actually recorded, I came back later on and I recorded more through the same mic at the same day, but it's on a different track. You can dial in one, and you can just copy this EQ setting, hit copy, go over to the other track, open up the EQ on that, do the same thing, and hit paste, and it's a copy paste. It'll pull all the settings from one EQ, and it'll put it into a different EQ on a different track, anywhere you want to put it. Really, really good for speed workflow to move quickly. Jake, Smooth Production, $4.99. Thanks, pal. I appreciate that. Hey, quick question. He says, what if we have the audio that's clipping? Is there a way to clean that audio up? Yeah, in general, if it's clipping in the original track, like it was just too hot, what will typically happen is, let me see if I can zoom in here. You'll see, I'm zooming these up. When you look at these audio, can you see these audio waves here? What happens is when you clip, it's the audio is recorded too hot. Let me see if I can dial these up. And you'll start seeing like, oh my gosh, like the tops of them flatten out, right? It's just squashed. What you can do is when you bring your tracks in, right, select them. And one of two ways, if you see, I can hover. Let me see if you can see this. When I hover, not when I zoom in, my mouse turns into a double-ended arrow, and I can left click and hold, and I'm actually there's a line that's actually in, if you left click and hold inside of the audio track, I can actually adjust the volume of this up and down manually just by pulling it. I'm pulling the whole clip up and down. See how it's all going up and down at the same time? You can do it there, or if you have it selected in the upper right inspector, right? You've got a volume right here. As long as you're on the audio tab, you've got a volume. You can pull the slider back and forth, and it does the exact same thing. If I pull the slider back and forth, you're doing the exact same thing. So what I would tell you is start by, before you do any effects or any EQ, look at your track, right, in here and go, oh my gosh, it's like really clipping. That's a really hot. See if you can dial it back and go, wait a minute. I need to see if I can dial this back so that it looks more like this. It's not all squashed out at the top and the bottom. I want to make sure that this looks good. I can see the peaks and the valleys and not have like a bar of white because it's all too peaked out. That's the first thing I would do. It's the fastest way to at least normalize the peak level of that track to a decent level, and then working on it from there. Sometimes you have ones that are just clipped so hard, it's captured in the mic. You can't unclip, like if it's distorted terribly, it's one of those things you can tweak some of the level like I just showed you here, but sometimes it's easier to, re-record. I hate to say that, but 60% of the stuff I film gets thrown away because not either there was a mistake, but more often it just wasn't right. It didn't have the feel right, didn't look right. So don't be afraid to say, I got to do this again. I think that's one of the things that creators hate to do, but it's something that we have to embrace and go, if it's not right, what we're doing here is we're building, a meal, right? And if this was, dinner, and I said, hey, go make a salad, and you grabbed wilted lettuce and rotten tomatoes and, expired salad dressing, it would be, I don't care how you mix them, it's going to taste like a bad salad because the ingredients were bad, right? So when you go to try to create audio and you're trying to make a really great recording, really pay a lot of attention while you're recording. That's the most important thing, because if the ingredients are good, you're going to have a much better chance of getting the final export, the final product to sound great because you did all the right things at the beginning. Don't clip your meters. Make sure that when you're recording, you don't have to have things peaking out. Make sure they're dialed back. You know, you should be aiming for like a -6 to -9 peak, way below, not going way into the red. Just try to capture something that doesn't peak, give yourself some headroom, and then when you bring it in, you'll have the ability to crank it up a little bit, do some things, and make it sound a little bit better. So that's how I would deal with that. But again, over in the Fairlight page, there's a couple more things I want to show you on this EQ. Okay, I showed you, you know most of this now, right? You feel comfortable? There's your band 1 that does the roll-offs. That's your high-pass filter. All of these act the same. They're just in different locations spread around the frequency spectrum. Your band 6, that's your super high roll-off. That's your low-pass filter that only allows lows through, and it rolls off the high end. So you understand all of this. You understood in the upper right, this fire gain equalizer type, kind of a gimmicky thing. Your gain structure, your reset button, and your ability to save, copy and paste in that 3-dot ellipsis. But this left section here is the last thing I want to talk to you about. Okay, right? All of this stuff right here. Now, this one right here, equalizer, is your toggle. All right, so you can toggle it off. That little switch, if you push it to the left, it'll bypass the equalizer. Even if you have the equalizer all set and you didn't do anything else, that literally is like the on-off switch for your equalizer. So hold on, I'm leaving on screen. Daniel, there we go. Okay. Just did all that stuff for nothing. Again, I'm sorry. I got to go again. So down here, I apologize, my friends. Down here, low pass, that's the high pass filter. Rolls off the lows. These 4, all identical. Those are all just controlling all the things in the middle spectrum. This one over here, band 6, that's your low pass filter that rolls off the highs. Everything in the upper right, equalizer type, fire, earth, wind, gain, whatever that one was. Yeah, those are just sort of like, they're just amplifiers that make it a little more aggressive. Gain is your overall output volume. There's your reset button, 3-dot ellipsis. That's going to allow you to copy and paste these settings you did here into a different EQ. And we are going back over to up here. I apologize for doing that twice. And that's this whole section. This is your on-off switch, that EQ, that red dot right there. If you turn that off, now everything is bypassed. You'll see like all my little dots disappear. Everything is gray. All the knobs, there's no color. It does a cool thing where it just turns gray and everything is no longer active. So no matter what you do here, it's not going to affect your track. And that's true with almost all of the DaVinci Resolve plugins, the VST plugins, that if that toggle is turned off, it's going to literally turn off that effect. Above that, you're going to see a couple other things. A, B, this is a fun one. You can set 2 different EQ curves and then A-B them, meaning go back and forth by clicking on A or B and sort of comparing them to each other. So sometimes, like with the EQ that over here, the on-off, I'll listen to the EQ that I've applied to my vocal and I'll just turn the EQ off to hear what the vocal sounded like with no EQ so I can compare them. But up here, I can actually create 2 different EQ curves and go, I don't know if this sound, does it need more low end or less low end? And I'll do a separate curve. And if you switch it over to B, right? And then you can go, maybe it needed less low end. I got to pull the low end down and maybe it was a little too bright on top. I'm going to use a low pass filter and roll off some of that sibilance. I'm going to change it slightly. And I want to know, is this curve better or is this curve better? And all I'm doing is toggling A and B. And every time I do that, it'll do it in real time. So you can compare 2 completely different EQ curves and dial in the one that you think is right. And sometimes having that ability to just reference like, is this right? Is this right? And then turn them all off and let me hear the original. It'll give you options, gives you choices, and allows you to hear which one might be better for the mix, which was really cool. Having that ability to sort of check an A/B toggle, I use it a lot. Like, I'm like, is that right? I don't want to I don't want to change all the, the settings and then go, no, I took out and then have to change them back. I can just do a B toggle and go, let me try that same EQ curve, but roll off some of the highs and switch back and forth and go, yeah, I like it without so many highs in it. It sounds a little bit better. The last thing here is this here menu. These are all presets and your own custom presets. There is a little plus button right here, and everything that you've done here, if you click that plus button, it'll open up a dialog box that lets you save your EQ settings and put a name to it. In this case, you can see I've got one here called Daniel's vocal, right? And once you save it, it's going to be in this menu. There's a couple other arrows here that let you scroll left and right. Like if you happen to be on this EQ setting and this one here, you can toggle to the right. It'll go to this one next, and then it'll go to this one. Then it'll go. It basically toggles through all the ones that are available. So you could listen to different ones if you wanted to. But that's really important. So let me just click on that plus button and you can see, let me see. Can you see this? It did like a double thing, right? It says equalizer preset. Would you like to create a new preset? And you go like create new, and then it gives you this window here, and you just type in a name and you say, okay. And it will then save it to, like this one I could call like, live stream, whatever. We'll call it live stream because we're here in a live stream doing this, right? And I hit okay. And now if you look up in my menu, if I switch to something else, let me do a drop down menu. I now at the very bottom, I now have live stream as an option, and I can easily recall that because I've made a custom preset. I don't know what the limit is. I've never reached the limit, but you can save many different EQ settings for different things. You might have one mic, like when you're out on your iPhone and, just using your phone, filming, you might have a special EQ that really makes that mic sound good. Maybe you've got like your DSLR camera or mirrorless camera with a shotgun mic, and when you use that camera, you have a preset, EQ that's a good starting point. You might have an in-studio mic. So you can set all these presets. So once you kind of dial it in and you've heard it, you went, that sound good. I like the way that sounded when I put it on YouTube. If you save your EQs along the way or save your projects, just go back and go, I'm going to make that my preset. That sounds really good. I don't have to work so hard next time to dial in the sound. All right. And I'll give you one more quick little thing here. Like, I'm going to flatten this out to nothing. I'm going to play my audio and you'll see I do very little EQ. Like if I show you, if I go to my menu here, and I got Daniel's right here. You see, I've got a Daniel's vocal. That's a kind of a starting point I tend to use with this microphone. And if I click and turn that on, this is what mine looks like. Like I told you, I tend to roll off all of this junk down here. That's boomy. I tend to softly roll the highs off just to get rid of the spittle and the crisp and the stuff that's like, oh my gosh. Stop whispering in my ear, Daniel. I want you to sound like a podcaster. I don't want you to sound like, my girlfriend at night, like trying to get my attention. Hey, you awake? And then I do this. I roll up the lows a little bit to get a little more warmth. It just sort of brings out the bottom, the fullness. And then I set this number 5, which is this band, with that reverse Y. So it's everything after it is going to get pushed up. And I put it right about 2K in here. And I lift it up and it raises everything after it. So what it does is the high frequencies that my voice do exist in, it allows them to get a little bit more crisp, but I'm still rolling off the super highs that get annoying. And I'll play you back and forth. You probably won't even be able to hear this difference too much. Here's the EQ off.
If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person,
little warmer.
How. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how. If you wanted to take a video of someone who's moving and the background was staying still and make it look like the camera was tracking that person, let me show you how.
See, so it's a very subtle difference. It's just rolling some of the highs away, pulling some of the boomy lows out, but then bringing those mid lows, those like 125 to 250 to warm it up so that my voice still sounds full, but I don't want those super lows. I want that big sort of microphone fullness that makes you sound like a podcaster. So real simple stuff right there. And it's saved. It's ready for me next time. And I can just jump right in, start my new project. I've got all these mic settings. Nice and easy. Makes my life really easy. And I can do, like if I ever do change a mic, certain mics have different tonality. If I decide to use a different mic here, I can still save. I could change the name of this and go, oh, that's Daniel's Aston Spirit mic. And I can do a different one that might save for like my SM7B that has a slightly different tonality to it. But again, decent mic pre. Try to capture it really well, a little bit of rolling in, a little bit of rolling out, learn how these frequencies work. If you can spend time with this, go play around, go roll around, and you can start doing this in real time. Don't be afraid, go crazy, like push things up and down real hard. In the perfect world, you do not want to add too much EQ or subtract too much EQ in most cases, unless you're trying to find that one problem frequency. You want to do soft things. Rolling the ends is fine, but in the middle, try not to jack things way up or pull things way down. Try to make sure if you're distorting audio a lot and doing really big gain swells and dips, there's usually something wrong with your basic track. You shouldn't be making major changes like that. There's a question here from Palma who said, hey, is there any way to delete the presets though? Yes, I got to remember how to do it though. I think you just caught me here. There is a way to delete these presets, but I got to remember how to do it. Is it there? I don't think it's, no. There is a way to take them out, and I don't remember if it's renaming them. I'll get back to you on that. I'll leave that comment down, and I forget the way to pull them out. There is a way to delete them though, or maybe just overwriting them. But I think I came across, yeah, you can delete, but it may be on the system end. I think you may have to go into your system where these are actually not stored in the software. They're stored in the software files in your system, and I think you can delete them from there. If you get to the point where you have like, oh my God, I got 60 presets. It's too many. I think you have to actually go into the Resolve system files where it stores them and then delete them from there. But I'll leave a note in the live stream comments, pinned comment after this is all done, and I'll make sure I tell you how to do it, okay? It's a great question too. Oh my God, it's the guy that always helps me when my teacher neglects me. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. You guys have been such a great community. It's been a wonderful ride the last couple of years here, just, talking about editing content and, putting stuff on YouTube and all of us learning to use Resolve together. Everyone, I get every now and then I get someone who says like, why do you call us noobs? And I'm like, I'm the noob. Like I'm learning right along with you. Every day I learn something new. And when I learn new stuff, I pass it on to you guys and say, hey, this is how you can do this so that you guys know too. And every day I learn, I'm like, I don't know how to do something and I have to figure it out. This is DaVinci Resolve is 4 softwares in one, and it's much bigger. It's much more powerful than an Adobe Premiere Pro or Avid Media Player, Media Composer. It's bigger and it's got more stuff going on in it. There's a reason that Adobe has to switch between After Effects and Adobe Premiere Pro and Audition to do all those different things. They use several different softwares. Resolve puts it all into one, and they give 85% of it away for free. So I love using this software. I'm going to do my best to really stay focused to the community on what you guys are asking me you want to learn more about. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section down below, and I will go out of my way to try to answer as many of them as I can. You guys asking questions is what helps drive the content here, because it really gives me a feel for what's important to you guys. And when I start seeing multiple people ask similar questions, that's when I know it's really important and we got to get a video out sooner than later. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here today. Thank you to Doug Hewson for helping me keeping the chat, somewhat in check. And I hope this was all useful. And I want you to get out there and start playing around with the EQ, start making some of your own presets. And yeah, guys, I'll see you soon. All right. We'll talk. Peace.